Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I'm your host out of Alexandria, Virginia, Andrew Becker. On today's episode, a new friend of mine, Steven, we connected a while back, so I've been looking forward to this episode ever since. Welcome, Steven Howell. You are the head of partnerships at DealMachine. Glad to have you on the show, Steven.
Absolutely, Andrew. Glad to be here.
All right, man, let's just get right into it. We're talking kind of pre-episode about your background and your history in real estate as an investor and then what you do at DealMachine. Give us the high level, who Steven Howell is and how you got to this point.
Absolutely. Well, my journey in real estate began in 2011. Actually, 2 years prior to that, 2009, I ordered one of the late night info packages with my now wife at time, girlfriend, and my best friend. And so we kind of dabbled around for a couple of years, got really serious. I had fresh out of college, couple of years, was working at a financial institution, Fidelity Investments, awesome role, had an interest in real estate, flipping houses. We bought this course, started learning what wholesaling was, did driving for dollars, bandit signs, all that. Landed.
Give me PTSD, man. Give me PTSD.
The throwback. And I had an opportunity. There was a couple of brothers that had already a couple hundred units and by Cincinnati. And they also flipped a few dozen houses a year and wholesaled. And so had an opportunity to kind of come under their wing and lead some acquisitions. And this was over the course of 6 months, going to meetups, asking questions, presented an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to replicate what we're doing in a different market. And you're hustling, you're out there taking action. And so had an opportunity to lead their acquisitions. And so that is where I really discovered and honed in on probate and driving for dollars. I always loved like the niche lead sources.
Yeah.
And so for the last 10, 11 years, that is, been something in my own personal house business that I've really focused in on is probate leads, driving for dollars, and just kind of those niche style leads. You're getting county record data, you're getting, bigger data as well. And so DealMachine is just an app that I started using, as I'm driving for dollars, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you mean I don't have to have the notebook on the front seat anymore? And and so anyways, it's been a wild ride, a ton of fun, but that's a little bit of the snapshot there.
Very cool, man. And just real quick, my background with the probate engineers coaching program. I'm curious, what drew you or continues to draw you to probates? What's so great about probates in your mind?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things is larger spread deals. The house is usually either paid off or a low mortgage. The executors or, personal representatives, a lot of times they live out of town or out of state.
Yeah.
And there's that less of an attachment to the property. And so for all of those reasons, and typically the houses are dated. So, they're going to a lot of times either keep the house in the family. They may list it with a realtor, of course. But they're oftentimes, more open to a cash offer than just your generic lead out there. So definitely that is one of the sources that I'm always looking for that niche style data.
Very cool. Yeah. From our conversations, I think niches are something that I think people need to pay attention to if they're not already. But don't want to make this just about probate, Steven, because we could talk all day on that topic, as you know. So you got into probate specifically, you're doing other things, you talk about bigger data, and then you started using DealMachine, if I'm correct. But then how do you make the transition from using a product to actually working in the product as head of partnerships?
Absolutely. So that's been a ton of fun. So I also have a background in training and coaching folks. So for the last 12 years or so, I just wound this portion of my business down, and it was such a fun journey. I have a passion for teaching. And so people are like, Steven, how are you getting these off-market probate deals? We see you doing all these probate deals. How are you doing that? So I recorded a little series around that, a little boot camp, and just would walk people through that side of things. I know you and I align on that, and you're at such an amazing volume. I'm just so fascinated. But, I wanted another way to, add additional volume. And so that's where it's okay, I have always, even though I've done this, virtually, I'm in Ohio. And so, doing this in my own market. There's so many probates, and so that's where driving for dollars, pulling other data. And so started utilizing the platform. And I like to keep like expenses lean, not a million tools. And so I was a little apprehensive at first, but as I started utilizing it, and then as DealMachine grew beyond just driving for dollars, and then a few years back, they, kind of changed the game where it's like every single list that you build, whether it's a 10,000 person list, a 20,000 person list, or a super dialed in 500 person multi, filtered stack list, it's all instantly skip traced with like best in class phone numbers, corporate skip tracing, all of that type of stuff. And so I'm like, hey, like this is, and so I just started having a lot of success in that world. And
Very cool.
so did some webinars with DealMachine, and there was an opportunity where I was able to come in and lead their partnerships, having a coaching and mentoring business for 10 or 12 years, knowing some of those pain points and joys of seeing folks do their first deal, taking them by the hand step by step, and just kind of that love for for teaching and all that type of stuff as well.
Yeah, man, very cool. One thing, just in case someone out there listening right now, you mentioned like stacking lists, Steven. Can you give us the definition of that? Like, just in case someone's like, what the heck does that mean? Because I think it's super and incredibly important to understand that strategy. So what does that mean when you say stacked lists?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're looking at there, and this could be, I'm going to use an example of a single family property. So we can go in and say, hey, in my specific area, in this, in this particular county or this particular zip code in my market in Ohio, I want to see the single family properties. I want to see properties that are like if we're talking about wholesaling, kind of the median property value. So yes, we have houses in my area, 300, 400, all that type of stuff. But in the specific neighborhoods, I'm looking for a value of like 250 or less. That's where like the more of the wholesale deals are. And so I'll say, okay, show me that. And then I also want to see properties that haven't sold in the last 7 years. So I want to make sure they've been there for a little while. I want to make sure they have 30 to 40% equity. And it's like, okay, let's layer on those filters. Now, maybe I want to isolate and I only want to look at homes that are built between 1945 and 2010. So I'm taking away 2010 to 2026. Those properties are out. The really, really old properties before 1940, 1945, they're out. And then from there, so that's going to take me in one of my zip codes that I love to do deals in, that's going to take me from 21,000 properties to 3,000 properties. Well, that's still a fairly broad list. And of course we can market to that and do volume. But then we can say, okay, now out of these 3,000 properties, I want to see, which ones are going through probate. Okay, I want to see which ones on here are out of state owned. I want to see which ones are absentee owned. So that may take the 3,000 person list and bring it down to like 618, absentee owners. And then I can say, well, out of that list, which ones are behind on taxes? Okay, there's 22 properties now on there that are behind on taxes and out of state owned. Or which ones are tired landlords? They're over 60 years old or over 65 years old. They've owned it for 15 years and they're out of state, and the property's vacant. And so that's one of the things where, I love using DealMachine for that personally, even though, now I lead partnerships with DealMachine, is because I used to pay, and you probably relate to this, Andrew, I used to pay like 97 bucks a month, or I forget what it was, for years for a list stacking tool that would specifically, I'd have to go take, buy the list somewhere, then you had to take it somewhere else and skip trace it. Then you would have to also subscribe for a list stacking tool. And then it's like, well, these properties are on 6 different lists. And so something that, we did was like, we want to market to the properties that are on 3+ or 5+ list. And that's kind of all built in now, on DealMachine. There's a little toggle switch on there and it'll tell you all the different lists that it's on, which is pretty cool. So
that is an amazing description of like stacking a list. And for those of you who just listened to that, that is how you take a calibrated, critical thinking approach to your marketing. Because as you are getting more optimized and a little bit more organized around your operation, whatever your exit strategies are, there's a massive, massive difference, Stephen, of marketing to 10 or 20,000 people because you think you have to spread volume, or 300 that you have a high probability confidence level in, that for everything that you just said has a 90, 95% or maybe more chance of needing and wanting to sell. That is important for your marketing efforts, not only your marketing dollars, but how important, Stephen, is it for you as a human or your team as a human around burnout of talking to so many freaking people who don't want or need to sell from a morale perspective?
You just hit something that I think a lot of people, myself included, you miss at first, because it's like, yes, like we want to dial in our marketing dollars and our time, like those two big things. Like we want to be super efficient with our time and our marketing dollars. But the other big component is that burnout factor. When you're
Yeah,
spreading yourself so thin, talking to so many people, the rejection is mounting, and you're like 21,000 records. It's like, well, out of the 20,000 records, maybe 19,700 of them are not the ideal folks that you should be talking to. And so
exactly.
it's the mental side of it and the burnout. And the same thing multiplied out for those listening that are building out a team. It's like, how exhausting is that? You have an amazing acquisition manager, somebody on the team, and then 3 months in, 6 months in, you're then trying to find their replacement, that type
Yep.
of thing. So it's such a big underrated factor.
Yeah, man. If you will let me, Stephen, I'll share something with you from me personally and my team. I know this is you're on the podcast here and you're the guest, but to put this into perspective, we did a lead source, I won't name it, and we got hundreds and hundreds of leads. But just what we're talking about okay, we might have gotten 1,000 leads, but maybe one or two are actual leads. Our ISA department or phone department people did not want to call or speak with them, let alone it was difficult to even get them on the phone. Go through all of that level of effort to vet, to set an appointment, and then our agents didn't even want to go on those appointments. That's how bad it got. And we're like, what in the world are we doing? It's this the volume thing, but it was so not trusted on our side. So that is a super important thing to recognize if you're a team operator or an owner today and you're thinking about like, I just need more, 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 more. You're much better suited to go into a niche, to go into a stacked list that Steven just spent the last couple of minutes talking about, because it will not only lead to better deals and make your conversion rates skyrocket, but it will keep your team members hungry and happy and will avoid that burnout. And that is an incredible thing to, aha moment for a team operator or anyone in the team to realize that is how important it is. So it's really cool to see how DealMachine is making that even simpler, Stephen, for people to do.
Absolutely. And very, very well said. It's like, it's such you're right. Like you can have, like, oh, we closed 3 deals from that. But if you had to go through 10,000 records, your team doesn't want to touch the lead. Morale is down. Confidence is down. That is why we want to get really, really specific with the data. And so that's one of the things that, that I'm super passionate about, is like, yes, the niche list and all those things are so powerful, but coupling that with really powerful data.
Yes.
And so it's such a big thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Data is king, just like cash is king when you're purchasing properties. Super important to not neglect the data side of things too. Stephen, I know we're coming up on time here, but we had talked a little bit about like, also, you're not only the head of partnerships, but you also run like, okay, now that you're on the program or the platform, I should say, here's like some best practices. I don't know how long that list is, but can you share one that, not maybe a whole lot of people don't know about in DealMachine, or just the best use case for someone who's thinking about DealMachine or that's on DealMachine that wants to make it even better?
Absolutely. So I'll give a couple golden nuggets. One, I call these like the golden pillars, and this may sound a little cheesy at first, but it's so powerful for everyone listening. If you're able to go to your calendar or wherever you keep track of your to-dos and make a reoccurring weekly invite with yourself for 30 to 60 minutes, and it's going to say something like, "Did I build a fresh new list this week?" And so, utilizing data. And so I'll just use the DealMachine example. When we're going in there, as I shared earlier, building that stack list, taking it from 21,000 properties down to 300, that's just in one zip code. And when you really click by click, get in there, it takes like 2 or 3 minutes. And then you hit build list and it's instantly built. You can save it, all the contact information, 700 data points. It's all right there. And that's just such a powerful thing. And so week in, week out, if it's kind of like, no, I didn't build a fresh list. I didn't. You
Yeah.
start to see the activity, the appointments, all that go down. However, if it's like, did I build a fresh list? Yes, yes, yes. Now that's one pillar. The other golden pillar is, did I market to that list, right? So that's just one little nugget. Sounds super cheesy, but it's almost this self accountability. And when you see it pop up on your calendar, it's like, I'm active, I'm investing in this, I'm being strategic. Maybe this week I'm working on my out of state owners list. Maybe the next list
Yeah.
it's my tax delinquent list. Maybe it's the next list or week it's the senior tired landlord list, and build that tight list. The next thing I would share is a setting in DealMachine. If you go in there, I usually choose, and we can do maybe, Andrew, a broader demo sometime. I love doing that as well, where we go in and we say, hey, like, here's like just in 20 minutes, click by click, here's my favorite settings. That type of thing would be so fun. But one of them is building condition. The county rates every property as excellent, average, poor,
Right.
fair, unsound. You can go in there and it's almost like a driving for dollars hack, where you can go in there, choose building condition, and choose the ones that are poor, fair, and unsound, which are the bottom three categories. And that will dial in that list for you well also. And so for those who are maybe short on time, that aren't able to go, in the car driving for dollars, that's almost like a shortcut there. So that would be just a couple nuggets that first come to mind.
Dude, that is so important. One thing really stood out. The building condition thing is awesome. I really like that. But the one thing that stood out is consistently refreshing the super calibrated criteria set list.
Mhm.
Because I've done this and made the mistake myself. You buy a list once and then you market to it. And then over time, it starts to degrade in the quality and you wonder why. So it's super important, not only for the first step is how am I going to go from 10,000 or 20,000 down to the 300 per zip code, right? But the second part, if you're picking up on what Steven's throwing out here, is you have to refresh that list. You have to keep it current, because that will also lead to an optimized marketing campaign and initiative and morale too. Do not buy a list once a year. I highly advise against that. So I love that, putting a calendar reminder in every single week and doing that via DealMachine. And Steven, I will absolutely take you up on that live demo offer. We'll do a Facebook Live together and we'll have a similar conversation, but you can do some screen sharing with us. And, if you're interested in learning more about DealMachine, stay tuned for that. Steven, this has been such a great conversation. I love this kind of like really honing in on a strategy discussion. If anyone out there wants to learn more about DealMachine, if they're not on it, or get really dialed in on DealMachine if they're already on it, how does somebody find you? How do they reach you?
Absolutely. So beneath this video, wherever it's published, we will have a link that will take you. We want you to test the data out for yourself. So you'll get a free 7-day trial. And we've had so many folks do their first deal, get a deal under contract while they're even in the trial period. You're able to pull a list of 300, 500, have all the phone numbers, have all the data instantly available. And then we throw in some extra bonuses in there, because you're able to click to mail to do a postcard, or have AI virtually drive those properties. And you get 1,500 of those as kind of an added bonus. that we'll have. So that'll be below where anyone can try out DealMachine. And so that's really, really fun too, where we would do that demo. I love for it to be active and engaging, Andrew. So everybody that watches like live with us, it's like, hey, like not just follow along with me, but like, let's put your zip codes in. Maybe we can get some of the audience and I can build some lists for them, or they can be going click by click with me. So at the end of that 20 or 30 minute Facebook Live, you watching this, will have your own list fully built and just kind of see like, oh, wow, that wasn't as complicated as I thought. Yeah. And then obviously they're implementing the processes that you're teaching them, which is just incredible. I'm super 100%. Honored to be on here, Andrew. I love talking shop with you. This has been so fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for your time. And just to reiterate, if you're watching this on YouTube, look down. There's Steven's contact information. We'll include all of that. So click on it. Steven, we talked earlier, we're both going to see each other in person in Orlando next week. We will find a time and put it on the calendar to schedule that Facebook Live. And of course, we will let everyone know about that as well. But Steven, thank you so much for your time today and coming on. Looking forward to all the other stuff that we talked about and moving forward, man.
Absolutely, Andrew. It's my pleasure, and I can't wait to connect next week. So thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Stick around for a sec after this, but thanks again for coming on, and I look forward to seeing you in person, dude.
Absolutely. Sounds so good, Andrew. Love it.
All right, take care.
All right, see you, man.